Everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 489, being recorded on the last day of February 28th, 2018. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hallstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Allyn Malventano.
And it's the last day of February. That means we are 1/6 of the way through 2018.
Boo.
Already.
Right?
1/6 of the way.
I still get an extra 2 or 3 days to send in my rent check, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I totally forgot to do that today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think most people will just assume tomorrow's the 29th out of habit, so you're probably fine.
Ken wants 77 days in February.
That'd be nice.
So he doesn't have to pay his rent.
Don't we all?
I mean, eventually you still got to pay it, even if there's only 77 days.
I guess. It just puts it off for a while. You know?
Welcome to the show, everyone. We talk about computer hardware and some other stuff. Wednesday nights, we record the show live, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Did that backwards than I normally did. Had to think about it a little bit longer. At PCPer.com/live. That's the URL. You can find our streams. And a chat as well if you want to hang out. We've got a lot of guys and gals talking in here about hardware, making fun of us, and our discussion before the show about lawn care. So this is the riveting stuff that you miss out on if you're not a part of that group. If you want a little reminder about the live stream, maybe you get busy on Wednesday evenings and you want a little email notification like, hey, dummy, I won't call you dummy. Hey, person X, you should
X.
come.
So much better than dummy.
Person of viewership.
We don't even include your name in the email.
It's like if Professor X didn't go to school.
Right. It's just person X. Exactly. If you go to PCPer.com/subscribe, you get a virus and threat protection warning, but you also get this page here that asks for your name, your email address, and that's it. And we send you an email notification a little bit before we do our video thing.
I like how it was a warning that popped up on you. It told you there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, I do appreciate that.
Oh my God. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Continue on with what you were doing. I hope it wasn't important. I hope you weren't capturing your screen while this was occurring.
Yeah.
Right, guys? We do have our Patreon campaign continuing to run. That is at patreon.com/PCPer. This is your opportunity. If you want to directly contribute to us on a monthly basis, it could be anywhere from $1 to $3 to $5 to $10 to $20 to $50. And it basically your way to directly contribute to us, the content we create, whether it be the videos, the stories, the mailbag that we do, that type of stuff. And that we greatly appreciate everybody that does that. It's super awesome that there's anybody that would be willing to pay us directly for the stuff that we do. And that's awesome. As is always the case, if you sign up to be a new patron during the show and or increase your patronage, I will give you a shout out during the show, as I'm going to do right now, as a new pledge for $3.99 just came in from Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho.
Nice. Well, thank you, sir.
So thank you, Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho, for $3.99 pledge. Greatly appreciated. And you too can have your name called out just like that throughout the show. So there you go. Also, this is the first time we'll be proud to announce that after many requests over many months, Ken decided to actually go do the thing that people have been asking for. You guys have asked for t-shirts. So ta-da, we have t-shirts. It is at Teespring, right? We need to create a shorter URL for this or something else, but it's teespring.com/stores/PCPer. We'll make a short URL later and a link on the website and stuff. But that gets you this page. You see it? Nope. You got nothing? Nope. There. Oh. Why does it not want to show this page? There it is. It goes. Hey. Where you can buy the classic PC Perspective logo on your chest t-shirt. You can buy the t-shirts from QuakeCon 2011. 11.
That gives you an idea.
Buy a mug.
That gives you an idea how long people have been asking for these shirts, because they've been asking basically right after that QuakeCon. Because that's when we started wearing them.
Yeah. So, these range from $20 to $30. Is that right, Ken? Depending on the quality, the type of t-shirt you get.
Yeah.
You can choose different colors, I believe, right? At least on a couple of them. Is that the case?
I think on all, but
They're looking now. The chat wants Darth Malventano on it.
Okay, well, look, guys, one step at a time.
Do we have that?
Buy
artwork?
these shirts. Figure out if you like them.
I take design submissions.
We'll take design submissions. This one, if you want the classic Death Wish raid shirt, you can do that. It's got the PC Perspective logo on the back with our URL as well as a little touch. No sponsor logos on these though, so keep that in mind. If you want Josh's favorite hot dog down a hallway, that one is also available with
we haven't been moving a whole lot of those.
Haven't been selling a lot of hot dogs down a hallway. We've got Super Pipe for people who remember that discussion. And would we call it a meme now? It was a very localized meme.
Sure, why not?
But yeah, we have this.
I'm pretty proud of my copy on these pages. The descriptions are pretty good if you haven't read them.
I did not. Super Pipe. If you yearn for a simpler time when PC components were plentiful and cheap, ask your doctor about Super Pipe. That's pretty good. That's good. I'm going to read this one. I can't think of an earthly reason why you'd want this t-shirt, but we aim to give the people what they want. Also good. And then Sweet Sweet Lemonade says, on second thought, maybe you don't want to know where the lemonade is made. Sweet lemonade, oh sweet lemonade. And we might have to watch it. And I gotta read this one. If you're running Raid without parity, stay far, far away from Ryan. Also true. So
sound advice.
Again, that is teespring.com/stores/PCPer, and we'll have a better URL for that going forward. And if you do have design submissions, send them over to us.
The chat's asking, what is the circle thing in the PC Perspective logo supposed to be?
The circle thing?
The design feature? I don't know.
You mean like the white circle?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a callback to the original PC Perspective logo, which I believe we can see if we go here. See,
you had a little orbiting.
Whoa! Too much of a zoom. Too much of a zoom.
Oh, it did the.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go?
It did the thing to you. Whatever that.
This is stupid.
Adaptive web.
Yeah, you can kind of see it
there.
There
It is.
So it's kind of like an orbiting. There's a gosh darn it. There's an orbiting ball that is the dot of the eye, and that swoosh around it.
So 2000s.
Man, I made that logo.
Yeah, you did.
I made
Ryan's
that logo.
baby.
And so that was kind of duplicated over here, but we went with more of a radar insignia. It's a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Was that one?
But only 2 bars of strength.
Sounds about right.
So those are available. Thank you for everybody who has ordered them, and continue to do so. And like I said, we'll take more submissions. Ken, did you order a coffee mug yet?
I haven't.
We need to order a coffee mug. I want to see what it looks like. I don't drink coffee, but I'll put
drink
beer
other
in it.
things out of a coffee mug, as it turns out.
I'll put beer in it. And we mentioned it before. We do have another mailbag episode up, number 32. This is, again, capable and possible because of the direct contributions of our Patreon supporters. And you can see there, it's just basically a weekly Q&A. You can submit questions on that YouTube post. You can submit them on our PCPer.com post. I have done most of them. We've also had Allyn sub in. We've also had Josh sub in. Is that it? It's the only differences. Ken, you haven't done any or anything yet, right? Have you?
God, no.
Fair enough. So there you go. There's our mailbag. Check that out if you can. Let's get into the content. Finally, we're going to talk to Ken about the TEKQ Rapide
TEKQ
SSD. I assume it's just TEKQ.
As far as I know.
Rapid.
I don't think it's TEKQ.
Rapide. Rapide.
Yeah, they put an E at the end.
Rapide, I think.
Yeah.
Rapide.
480 gig Thunderbolt 3 SSD. Ta-da! That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
What do we got, Ken?
So I don't think you were in the hotel room at the time, but in Las Vegas CES, Alan, Sebastian, and I had a very passionate conversation about why have we not seen any fast Thunderbolt 3 SSDs? Seems
legitimate
simple.
question.
Thunderbolt 3 is a bridge to PCI Express. You put a PCI Express M.2x4 SSD in there. You got a great product.
Yeah, sure.
Turns out someone heard us and they made this.
Heard us through the walls of the hotel.
Yes. So essentially, this is a M.2 SSD with a Thunderbolt 3 bridge behind it.
It's approximately the size of my business card.
It's really compact. It's, I'd say, smaller than a deck of playing cards, to use that tired analogy, but you can easily fit it and the half-meter Thunderbolt cable it comes with in your pocket, and just like a standard pair of jeans, which is nice. And
Did
it's
you just say
fast.
meters? What's that in real units?
I don't know. It doesn't work out cleanly, is why I said it.
Oh, okay. Carry on.
Yeah. So it's like 2.7 gigs read, 2.2 write.
Yeah.
Which is about what you can expect out of a by 4 interface these days.
That's a good number to see.
Yeah.
937 megabytes per second of file copy sustained.
Actually was on the other side of that.
That was
Over here, higher.
Samsung NVMe drive in a laptop.
Okay, I'm just wondering, like maybe the
What
other
was
end,
the bottleneck?
the other end.
No,
than the,
we've been getting close to the read off like a PM 961,
okay,
but not quite.
I mean that's
We also hooked it up to
Good.
Jim's stupid iMac because they touted Mac compatibility. So there you go.
So it does work on a Mac.
use the one Mac benchmark.
It's got a piece. It comes with a piece of chewing gum like baseball cards. Good
Appreciate
to know. Good to know.
We took it apart like we do everything, and it's actually good. They're using the aluminum case as a heatsink, which you can't take for granted these days. We've seen some add-in cards that are PCI Express risers with heat sinks on top of them, and they're not actually using the heat sink to wick away any heat. Thunderbolt 3 controllers get really hot, so being able to use the aluminum case gives them the ability to make it super tiny and also heat efficient.
I'm glad to know this PCB was okay.
Upside down though.
Pretty okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're using a Phison E7 based SSD in there. It kind of looks like just a reference design straight from Phison. They aren't doing anything real special with it. It is 4K aligned though, which Allyn might have.
It's 4K sectors.
Yeah, 4K sectors. Sorry. Not aligned.
What's that mean?
It presents to the host as if its sector size is 4 kilobytes, not 512 bytes,
Okay.
which is fine.
What
if
is
you're
the
on,
implication?
If your OS is doing writes smaller than 4K to it, it will have to do a little bit more juggling around of information,
Okay.
right? That doesn't happen very often. It's only like file table updates and stuff like that. It's not. It's not like you're flooding your SSDs with smaller than 4K random activity. But just something to be aware of. Just have to make sure that you're on a modern OS. Like if you go all the way back to, I think it was XP that.
So not Linux.
No, Linux would be fine.
Hey now.
Linux was fine way earlier than Windows XP was. XP did the weird.
Fine. It was a joke.
Yeah.
So you can't run Windows 3.11 on, is what you're saying.
Well, sure.
Use your Thunderbolt 3 controller on Windows 3.1.
XP was supposed to be compatible with 4K sectors. I tried making a RAID one time with that, and as soon as you rolled past the 2 terabyte mark, it rolled over and overwrote.
It just started writing over.
It just overwrote the master file table. It was really wonderful experience to have your entire file system just evaporate out from underneath you. So, it doesn't do that anymore. But just don't use this on Windows XP. How about that?
Check.
Fair.
It's just kind of an oddity we noticed in testing. I think the reason they did it is because Mac OS will only boot from a 4K drive with 4K sectors.
That makes sense.
And they wanted bootable compatibility on Mac OS. So
Okay.
a little quirk, shouldn't be an
It
issue.
does come with the Thunderbolt cable?
Yes, it does.
Right. I like it already. So how much is it?
I don't remember.
$3.
You're going to have to scroll down.
$450.
$383.
$383. So it is a
It's currently an Indiegogo.
Indiegogo. Okay, I was going to say Kickstarter.
Yeah, which we don't cover a lot of, but I have pretty high hopes for the campaign, considering they sent us a unit that was
functioning and working, and it wasn't
and I sent them out to other reviewers. This isn't the only one on Earth that exists. They had a retail box to send it in and everything.
Yeah,
looks like this company's been around doing some other stuff for a while, and this is kind of their first foray into this.
It looks like it's just ready to go.
Yeah,
just
very cool.
Has there been any talk from them about making just the adapter in the case?
They haven't said either way. I don't think they're interested in that because there's just not a lot of.
Yeah, they just want to sell that complete.
It's kind of a race
product
to the bottom. I really wish they would. I'll say that. We did put another SSD in it, and it works. So there's no sort of lockout. We did have some weird issues. I think might have been due to throttling because we didn't put it back together all the way. We just kind of popped the SSD in there to make sure
performance didn't look the best on a different product.
It booted. But I think I saw some other people put Samsung SSDs in it and got full performance out of it. So
okay,
you would have an upgrade path if you bought this to put another NVMe drive in there.
Yeah, I mean you could probably throw like a 2 terabyte 960 Pro in there.
Yeah,
if you wanted more capacity.
As drives get cheaper, you could throw one in there.
All right, that's the TEKQ Rapide 480 gig Thunderbolt SSD. They're selling a 960 as well, right?
Yeah, it's 240, 480, 960.
Got it.
I believe.
A couple of new patrons coming in between stories. Dummy just pledged $5.
Sounds about right.
I don't know if you're trying to say something about what you have to do in order to pledge to our Patreon,
we should put him on the mailing list.
Dummy.
Hey, dummy.
Hey, dummy.
Yeah.
We're about to stream. And then
Personalized message.
Exactly. Just for dummy, though. Douglas Manor II just pledged $3. Thank you, Doug, for that. Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right. Now we're going to talk about a little bit more about the Ryzen 5 2400G. We talked about it the last several weeks. We had the review of it. Then we did integrated graphics memory scaling testing. And now we're going to talk about GPU compute. Obviously, using the integrated graphics portion of this part itself, the Raven Ridge die, if you will. And the setup for this is pretty straightforward. We wanted to compare the 2400G against the Core i5-8400 and take a look at some applications that use GPU compute, as well as some synthetics to give you an idea of what capabilities this device might have.
Yeah, so if you can remember way back to the first GPU launches, this was APU launches, sorry. This was a big push from AMD. It's like, you can do video transcoding, you do all this different OpenCL stuff on your integrated GPU, and you want to touch CPU, so you can do other things like multitasking. In cases of video transcoding, it might be faster.
Right.
But I had heard nothing about that with this launch.
Right.
So I kind of dug to try to find some applications that it would work for.
And?
Well, if you start to look at the results.
So we started with Sandra, just kind of like a synthetic check of things, right? Clearly a walk-away winner.
Hey, guess what? Vega's a better architecture than Gen 10 graphics or whatever.
Testing single precision, double precision, half precision, and then the aggregate score there. So it's interesting you bring that up because it's like it was a big talking point a long time ago, and now it doesn't appear that it is. Is it because applications like this are harder to find?
I don't think they're harder to find. I just don't think they proliferated as much as everyone expected.
Okay. So the first test, you mentioned we would use like Handbrake for transcoding, but they haven't yet built in support for the AMD app SDK that enables a hardware acceleration.
So this is a bit more complicated. App is the older SDK. The new one is AMF, I believe, or AME. AME, I think it is.
Okay. Accelerated Media Engine.
Yeah, AMF is like a weird file format, I think. But AME is the new one. There are very, very few applications that have ever implemented AME. It seems like that's what AMD is using for their relive stuff.
Right.
There are branches of FFmpeg, and I think it might have just been recently mainstreamed in FFmpeg, but it's still very early days. And I came across that after this article was published.
Sure.
So definitely some more testing to be done there. But as you can see, even with the older app SDK and DVD fab, transcoding a Blu-ray to H.264 was significantly faster on the GPU rather than the CPU of the
2400G. Now the 8400 was still faster right? And that's using the QuickSync engine from Intel's part, not the GPU necessarily, although the QuickSync engine is kind of a part of the graphics engine. But it is it is closer to dedicated hardware than using shaders for that type of functionality.
And it's mostly a software issue at this point. QuickSync's been around a long time. Intel updates it every generation. AMD is kind of had this transitional period where they've moved software SDKs for this stuff. So it's just taking a bit for the software community to catch up. I would really love to see the AMD stuff integrated into Handbrake so we can do kind of a apples to apples comparison between all three, CPU, QuickSync, and GPU. On given platforms.
Got it. You ran it through Cinebench R15. No real change here. This is just kind of like an OpenGL test. Is it surprising that the 8400 is that close to the 2400G, you think?
I think it is. It might be just maturity of the drivers. Intel has pretty mature OpenGL drivers at this point, whereas we're just starting to see the first couple of releases for this Vega 8 and 8 and 11, I guess, or I can't remember the shaders anymore.
I will say AMD has always been significantly behind NVIDIA on the OpenGL side of things, so it doesn't surprise me that this is maybe closer than we would expect.
Your VSync is on for OpenGL.
What? Say that again.
I said your G-Sync is on for that test, not VSync.
Well, I mean, you don't get settings with that test, so
VSync.
I don't
You
know.
have to go into the control panel and turn it off.
Never had to do that before, but it's possible.
Nice.
It's possible.
I'll take a look at it.
I'm just throwing it out there.
All right. Luxmark, which is an OpenCL rendering test. This is a higher is better score. Here, clearly that GPU coming into play. Notice the difference between the CPU and GPU on the Core i5-8400 is very minimal. Almost as if GPU's not great, and that's because of that. What do you get? A 40% performance improvement moving from CPU rendering to GPU rendering on the 2400G. A pretty significant push. The V-Ray benchmark is interesting. This is a
very popular 3D renderer.
Okay.
For modeling applications.
Now this you did not run on the 8400. Why is that?
It didn't run. For some reason, did not see the 8400 GPU as a OpenCL device that was available to be rendered to.
All right.
So, however, we did compare it to a low-cost discrete GPU, which seems unfair, right? It's obviously faster. However, I was impressed at just how well the integrated graphics held up in a situation like this. The RX 550 is a GPU that costs almost as much as the 2400G itself.
Right.
So the fact that it's only like a 3x advantage is still pretty reasonable if you're a student looking to build a PC so you could do Revit and render with V-Ray. This would still be a very good option for a low budget build. And by rendering on the GPU instead of the CPU, you still get a usable computer. So if this is your only desktop and you have to render a project, you can still browse the internet. I know Chrome uses some OpenCL acceleration and stuff like that, but it was perfectly usable while I was running the V-Ray benchmark to just kind of browse the internet in Chrome and Edge and do some light productivity tasks. So for people who are building lower end PCs and need to get work done, it's a really viable option, I think.
Got it. So that was kind of the set of tests we ran through. I mean, what was your kind of takeaway from using this? Do you feel like is GPU compute an important part of the discussion when looking at these integrated graphics solutions?
I think it's important when comparing the CPUs rather than integrated graphics, I guess, if that makes sense. So I'm at the point now where I think you should buy one of these instead of like the competitive Ryzen 5 1000 series part without the GPUs.
Sure.
It just makes sense enough applications to have the GPU available. Even if you're using a discrete GPU, you can force it on. You can force the integrated GPU on in the BIOS, and apps that do use OpenCL can use it as a target device.
Right.
So if you're using like Photoshop or Office does some OpenCL now stuff that's just really difficult to benchmark, but is there and provides tangible improvements.
Yeah, I think it does make sense to buy these 2000 series over the 1000 series now. I think they're actually priced cheaper than the 1000s or close. And it will soon be all 2000 series across the board anyway on this type of stuff. So check out that story if you're interested in that. GPU compute performance. Actually, Josh, I'll ask you, do you feel like GPU compute on these kind of APU integrated graphics stuff has a future, or do you feel like it's stagnated itself into submission?
No, I think a product like this is going to push that forward just because it's pretty competent. It's got plenty of GPU compute power. Ken's article right here, it showed some significant advantages in multiple workloads where that works. I remember many years ago when some of the first APUs came out, I was able to get the APU portion working with graphics, and they're not, kind of the additive graphics that AMD had, but you could actually see all the CPU and the two GPUs, and with Luxmark and that type of stuff, you could, pick and choose which ones you wanted to utilize. And for something that is as general as AMD's Vega, this is just great. I mean, we've been hoping for heterogeneous computing for a long time, and this advances that principle by providing a powerful part that has full OpenCL implementation. AMD supports it really well with drivers. They're really working to, match NVIDIA with their big CUDA lead as much as they can, and so as many parts as they can seed out as possible and get drivers for, and potentially get other software IHVs to support those, then the better off AMD is going to be, the better off the industry is going to be, just because people are going to be utilizing all this horsepower that is often-wise just sitting quietly in your computer if you've got a standalone GPU.
Fair enough. I think we have another patron, Ross McLean, pledged $10. Thank you very much, Ross, for that. That's awesome.
I'm still waiting for person X.
Person X, yeah, that would be a good one too. Right after dummy.
$10. That's a lot of nuts.
That's a lot of nuts. Let's talk next about Logitech G603, G613. These are accessories. Chris is now becoming our keyboard accessory specialist in some regards, as we had a backlog of these devices creeping up on us. These are devices that came out last year that I've actually had been using for a little while. And Chris's reviews kind of came up with what I had as well. So the G613 is the wireless mechanical gaming keyboard. It uses the Romer G switches, quoted battery life of 18 months, which is pretty impressive. And I will say, I don't even know what kind of batteries the keyboard takes. And how long do you think? I've probably been using that for 3-4 months at least. So, and then the G603 is a wireless gaming mouse. $69, $59 as on Amazon at the time of this writing. Does not use Romer G switches. It uses the new Hero sensor, which is the low power yet still high performance controller from Logitech. This one also claims it has 2 battery life measurements that are of note. In the high performance mode, where the latency is listed as 1 millisecond, you get about 500 hours of continuous gaming time. If you put it in low mode, which is, I think, maybe 6 or 7 milliseconds of latency, you're up to 18 months of battery life. Again,
8 milliseconds there.
What did I say? 8 milliseconds. You're right. I'm sorry.
I bought one of these for my wife's PC like a few months ago and just forgot about it.
G613?
Yeah.
Or
And
the
just
603?
the mouse.
Yeah.
And just forgot about it. Basically, it's just been on her desk and haven't even...
So the keyboard is really interesting, right? Because it uses the Romer G switches, and if you've never used them before, they're basically, what are they closest to? I think Browns, maybe. I think he says that in here.
They have the feel of a
MX
click,
Browns,
but not the sound.
Yeah, like the sound is definitely deadened compared to...
Because the blues click.
Yeah.
The browns have the feeling as if they clicked, but they don't actually make the sound.
And this is the one I type on every day, right? And I've come to really, really like the Romer G. I used the G910, I think is what it was before, kind of the bigger, bulkier, gaming-ier looking.
The one with the little phone stand in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
This one is more of kind of, it's a better mix, I think, in terms of style for being office and gaming. It's still got all your media control functionalities. You can see it's got the switch to disable the Windows key. I like the capability that you can connect it through, a Wi-Fi, or not Wi-Fi, but a 2.4 gigahertz receiver, like USB standard unified receiver that Logitech has, or Bluetooth. And you hit either of these buttons and you can switch between them.
That's cool.
Right. So I often have my phone sitting on a phone stand in front of my monitor. And if I get a text from my wife, I want to reply to it. You have it linked to your phone. Yeah. That's interesting. So I just hit the Bluetooth button on the keyboard and I can hit enter, type in my PIN. It'll go right to that notification that just popped up. I can type, hit enter, and then you have to hit the Wi-Fi key, or I keep saying Wi-Fi, but you have to hit the wireless key to go back to that. I will say there have been many times where I have started typing in the wrong location because I forget to hit that button back and forth. What I need is the Logitech camera software, which I also have mounted above my thing, to watch my eyes and see basically where my focus is and move it accordingly. That would be a good next step. And I think that's possible to do. The only complaint that Chris had about this keyboard was if you look at the printing on the keys, he says it looks like they're stickers, but they're not.
Okay.
It's because there's no backlight on this. That's how they get the 18 months of battery life. There's no backlit keys on it. But there's apparently a coating over the printing that makes it look like it's a sticker on the key. But like I said, I've been using one for a long time and have had no issues with wear. But there is, I guess, the potential.
How much is this keyboard?
It is $149. That's MSRP.
That's pretty expensive for a keyboard with printed keycaps.
No, I said, is it that?
But they're not, aren't they? It's
You
just
said they're not
coated.
stickers, but they're printed. They're not double shot.
They might not be double shot.
Hold on. I want to know. What is it? They set it on pad printed legends with very clear edges. This type of legending is well known for wearing off over time, and I'm concerned about the long-term durability of the keycaps because the edges on the legends are so clear. The first impression is that they're stickers. They're coated, of course, so you can't peel them off. Yes, I tried, but it feels cheap compared to the rest of the keyboard. I guess that's fair. Like I said, having used it for about 4 months, it hasn't worn. That doesn't mean it's not going to.
I mean, you're not going to see wear in 4 months.
The palm rest hasn't worn as well, which I find interesting. Right? There's no printing on it, but there is that.
I mean, you're paying for the whole wireless without worrying about
wireless,
anything.
Romer G, mechanical switches, and then the 603 is. What would you say that mouse looks like to you? What would you say it's reminiscent
one of?
of?
Those old Logitechs.
What about? I was thinking more along the lines of the Microsoft.
Oh, yeah, that Microsoft.
It's much
portable.
IntelliMouse.
It's much shorter though.
You think?
It is.
Yeah.
When you actually try to use it, it's like.
Was that an MX310 I had?
So this is, again, it's wireless. It uses AA's, but you've got that low and the high setting option. This also has a button on the bottom that you can switch between Bluetooth and the wireless receiver.
Yeah.
And again, you can pair it to multiple devices. Not quite as convenient as using a keyboard because you got to pick it up and flip a switch on the back. But if you want to use that mouse at your desktop and you want to take it with you in your backpack when you go out of town, you can do that.
Switch
pair
it.
Bluetooth to your laptop or something if you don't want to have to get behind the desk and move the wireless receiver. A really good mouse. It's also, you can assign the side buttons through the software as well. You've said your wife uses this mouse, has no issues with it. Again,
it's been fine.
I've been using it for a long time and have had no problems. Again, not an LED enabled mouse.
Right.
Some people will see that.
Oh no!
Some people will see that as a very big positive, in addition to some people seeing it as a negative. But it is there.
She just needed a mouse.
Yeah.
So there you go.
These are available, both of them. Actually, so the silver award for the G613, gold for the 603. 613 slightly lower because of that printed keycap, as Chris pointed out. So very interesting accessories that, like I said, I have personally been using for a long time and have had zero issues with. And actually, I kind of like the smaller, more compact size and the big gaming one I had before. It's still got numpad, it's still got media functionality.
Yeah, the one you had on your desk before was a beast.
Yeah. And I really liked it. I think of one I was using, one of the recent ones before that was the Topre that had similar feel to the switches, but it didn't have media functionality. Right. And I listened to a lot of Spotify, so pause, next, all that stuff, very important to me. So check out that review that Chris posted up just this week. Now we're going to talk with Josh.
Me?
Because we have to.
Yes.
About a wheel.
You are contractually obligated to talk to me. My wife came out there, made you sign at gunpoint.
Please keep him for an hour to 2 hours every Wednesday night so I can actually get something done. Yes, understood.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, this was sent to me last year, and I had a chance to really hammer on it before life hammered on me. And I was able to finally get this review out. Now, initially, they released this one about a year ago, and it was their new top end at the time. Since then, they've got one other, the Thrustmaster GT, I believe. That's like a $700 part. That's kind of ludicrous. But this was a kind of the next generation of the T500 series. So it was initially released at $599. Throughout this past year, it is now an MSRP of about $499. You can pick it up anywhere in between $400 and $459, depending on sales. This is a redesigned unit. It has a new motor. It's got a new cooling system. Ooh. It's got a new power supply. It's I think it's got a new pulley and gearing system as well. And it is aimed to be a product that is more competitive to what Fanatic has at the $500 to $600 price range just for the base. Now with this, you only get the base and the open wheel. It doesn't come with pedals, but because of the kind of Thrustmaster ecosystem, you can have your choice of pedals with it. It's the T3A and the T3A Pro. I use this one with the T3PA Pro, which is their nicer, kind of more metal. You can adjust it from GT and F1 pedal settings. But this is a very comparable product to the Fanatic CSL Elite, which is right around the same kind of price range. Now, if you kit this out with the T3PA pedals, and it comes, of course, with the the nice open wheel, it is about $50 to $70 cheaper than kind of the base unit of the Fanatic CSL Elite with the 2-pedal set. If you decide to go with the 3-pedal set with the CSL Elite, that'll cost you another extra $100. But the amazing things about this is it's a pretty strong motor. It's probably around 6 Newton meters. And so that's, again, comparable to the CSL Elite. The cooling system is improved so that you don't get a whole lot of fan noise. It's just only got a little small fan kind of in the back.
Yeah, I saw it back here. Here it is.
Yeah, you'd think that's going to be just loud as hell, but it's not. It just kind of hums and it's in the background and it's not a big deal. And once you turn on your racing game, you don't notice it at all. But as these motors are working, more heat builds up. But their cooling system is such that the heat doesn't really ever build up that much. And so your fan doesn't get any louder than when you turn it on. The power supply is kind of a unique looking unit. It looks like a turbocharger. I think it's down near the bottom. Yeah, and
Nice.
So it's
that's a cool power
toroid,
supply.
and that's a big hole in the middle, and it's got 3 mounting holes around the side. This thing weighs a good 5 to 7 pounds. It's beefy. It's something like 400 watt peak that it can push out. It obviously won't stay there for very long, but
Well, it's got all that cooling, like it's a turbo.
Yeah. And so when you have rapid changes in motor direction, this thing can really pump out the power and give you that really good crisp feel without any kind of tailing off in the force feedbacks. In terms of force feedback, I would say that this was the best unit I've played with so far. I've done the CSL Elite from Fanatic. I've done the T300 from Thrustmaster to the TX, the lower end stuff. I did one of the Club Sport V2 a couple of years ago, which is the high end of Fanatic. And this really had the best feeling force feedback that I've yet to experience. It's strong, but at the same time, it was able to convey a lot of the subtleties of the surface that you're on. So you can really tell if it's pavement. You can tell exactly if your front wheels are slipping, if your rear wheels are slipping. I mean, it just really was able to get those forces through the wheel in a way that I hadn't experienced yet, either with previous Thrustmaster parts or with the Fanatic unit. And especially the CSL Elite, when comparing it to this one, it's just as strong, maybe a little bit stronger, but it doesn't have that same kind of subtlety. The feeling is it's there, but it's just not quite as good as what Thrustmaster is able to do. So this is a really good product for the price that it's at now. I mean, initially it was pretty expensive, but over this past year, it's dropped down significantly in price. And I think that it's in an area where, people who are serious about racing games can now get to the point where they can buy it. And, I've been testing it for quite a while. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. We've had multiple firmware updates, driver updates. They usually do that about once a quarter. And everything that I've used it on has worked very, very well with. And so it's been a great product. Give it editor's choice because it's really good. Again, I've used this with not just the open wheel that came with it, but the 590 XXX, 59 XXX Ferrari wheel, which is the full rally style circular racing wheel. You can swap out a bunch of different ones that they have. Again, if you scroll up a little bit, you can kind of see the ecosystem that you can add in there. So yes, the 599 XX Evo 30 is what I also tested this with, and it worked perfectly. It's a great product. If you really like racing, then you should take a good look at this and go for it.
So Josh, what's the total bill for the wheel motor, the F1 wheel, and a set of nice pedals and a shifter? How much is the total on that?
Boy, I think that Ferrari F1 wheel add-on is like $250 by itself. It's kind of a monster. The 599X XX that I used is around 175. So just, with the base, the open wheel that comes with it, and the T3PA Pros, you're looking at about $570. The TH8A, I think, is around $80. So you're looking $650-ish for just those basics. But when you start adding in, that Ferrari F1 wheel, things get a little bit pricier. The leather 28 GT wheel is something else. And also they have a new one that is a all wooden wheel off of like a 1962 Ferrari something. And it's like a $299, or is it $400? But it's ludicrous.
What if you bolt a Nintendo Wii wheel from Mario Kart to it?
You're not going to be able to do any
$250.
buttons.
Well,
whatsoever.
for one thing, the color scheme would be nicer.
Yeah, solid white on it. I mean, if you map the Wiimote Bluetooth to your PC, you might be able to do some stuff that way. If we're gonna save money on the complex systems like this, so all right, check that out. That's if you're into the wheels, if you're into that racing genre, which I am in love with all of the time, in racing backwards, Thrustmaster TSPC wheel review up on there. All right, let's jump into some news items. We got quite a bit of stuff to run through here. Mobile World Congress was this week. Is I think still going on in Barcelona. I didn't go, clearly, but stuff to talk about there. Qualcomm quickly, they announced that, so as we continue down this road to the always connected PC stuff, this announcement was not about any new partners for new systems. This was instead, hey, we found people to sell it, and we found people that will allow it to be on their network. So you're looking at the carriers in the US, or all 4 carriers, are going to offer plans. The unfortunate part is that nobody's telling us what it's going to cost yet. This could be great, or it could be really bad. It all depends on what the carriers decide to do with the data plans. Will they offer you, 10 gigs for $10, unlimited data for $20? Are they going to charge you? Are they going to do unlimited data as if you're adding a new phone, which is going to be like $80 on Verizon type of thing? What? You're shaking your head. No? Oh,
I think we talked about this last week.
Did we?
I'm having deja vu.
Well, we talked about the actual announcement at Qualcomm, but they hadn't really necessarily signed
we talked
anyone.
about how they're not in Best Buy. We talked about how that's on all 4 major carriers.
Yeah, it was still rumors at that point.
Yeah.
But now it's confirmed.
Well, whatever. Everything we talked about before is now the same, I guess. Yeah. So anyway, so it's not going to be at Best Buy. It isn't going to be at Amazon. So
Microsoft stores.
At Microsoft, at Amazon, not at that. I know I talked about this on Twitch.
But I wasn't on Twitch.
I know, but you would have been sitting in the room.
I wear noise-canceling headphones when you do that. I don't want to hear any more about tech.
Fair. All right, fair enough. But also from Mobile World Congress, Huawei announces the MateBook X Pro notebook. And that's a pretty good-looking notebook, right? If you are into the thin
in that
bezel.
configuration, it is.
What do you mean?
It looks a bit funky when you want to do some video calling.
Oh, sure. Yes, if you like the idea of thin bezeled displays, this kind of takes what the Dell XPS 13 started.
Yeah, where's the camera?
Well, we'll get to that.
You don't need no stinking camera.
It kind of increases or decreases the size of those bezels pretty dramatically. It's also a high-res screen, 3000 by 2000, 8th gen Intel Core processors, MX150 discrete, low power but discrete NVIDIA graphics option in there.
So wait, it's an actual 3x2 screen.
Yeah, like the Surfaces.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
So it's pretty impressive. However,
yeah,
that is the webcam.
Well,
that's the worst of both worlds.
Did it pop up?
It's actually almost a good idea. Yes. So between your F.
Is that one of the keys?
No, it's not. It's between F6 and F7.
Oh, okay.
So it does kind of screw up your
I hate to ask this, but
no, you
is that a webcam or is that laptop just happy to see me?
Maybe it's a little bit of both, Josh.
Could be.
And it's recording you.
So it pops up from that location to record up your nose. So
I see.
Yeah, like they fixed none of the problems. It's still going to look up your nose, and it's not, and it's this weird mechanism that's probably going to break eventually.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt that it doesn't break.
The thing instead.
Yeah,
be bold.
I mean,
Huawei, be bold.
It's like if you
bold, like removing the headphone jack.
Yeah,
we were brave enough to remove the webcam.
Ideally, what you want to do is you want it to like pop up out of the top of the monitor or something like that,
like that Vivo phone. they were showing off.
Yeah, but that's a really thin.
That's also going to break.
Super thin. Yes, hard to do. Like I get it. This is like a unique idea. If you never use a webcam, then at least it doesn't look ugly on your device, I guess, right? Because
remember how you don't see pop-up headlights on cars anymore?
Do you insinuate that was a mechanical failure problem in the long run?
Possibly.
So I like this picture here shows the woman you're talking to over video is well framed. She's got a camera on the top of her display to look at you. Meanwhile, where you're sitting, your back is going to be
preview video in the corner,
the top of your knuckles. Yeah, there is a reason why that recessed.
You know how many slides we've seen in presentations from notebook manufacturers other than Dell about how their Dell's webcam placement is bad. It's just viewing your hands on the keyboard as you type. This is going to be the new example they use.
I will posit, however, that it hasn't really slowed the success of the XPS 13 overall this time.
I'm convinced that people don't actually use the webcams on their laptops.
Well, then it's not a problem for Huawei to do this.
Just don't put it on there.
I mean, you got to have it in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Now,
emergency webcam.
What I will say is, at least with the one on the monitor, you have the ability to kind of like adjust it some, like the angle, right?
Yeah.
And
now
then
you can put it
on you can put it on a couple of phone books and angle it down some, and maybe you can get something that's close to reliable. With that, you don't have any of that flexibility.
Nose hair, ceiling lights.
Well, like I understand people have to do video conferencing for work and occasionally, but I don't think those are the type of people who are buying XPS machines. I think they're the type who are having ThinkPads or latitudes provided to them. And I think that unless it has Windows Hello, the webcam doesn't get used on a modern notebook very often.
Yeah. Here's the full list of specs. I mean, we've talked about most of this, up to 512 gig NVMe, up to 16 gigs of RAM. No specifics on pricing, I don't think yet. Oh, wait, no. MateBook X will be available this spring starting at $1,499 euros, which is approximately $1,850. I had heard actually that they were going to do 1-to-1 on that pricing, so it may be starting at $1,499 US, but we don't know for sure.
I would hope
yet.
It's not $1,850.
Yeah, I would hope starting at $1,850 would be really bad.
The rest, it's a cool laptop.
Yeah, and we've actually had good success with the Huawei devices I've had. Both did we look at the MateBook X? We looked at the MateBook E.
We looked at the E,
and then the original MateBook as well.
Yeah, they came out with the X last year, and it was really compelling. I wanted to take a look at. We just never got a chance to, and this looks like they're improving upon that.
Yeah. So. Samsung obviously announced the Galaxy S9, S9 Plus phones. Not a lot of surprises here. All this information kind of had been coming out. It used the Snapdragon 845, as well as the Samsung Exynos 9810 processors, depending on where you are in the world. It has a dual camera design. It has a physical shutter mechanism for the primary camera, switching between f2.4 and f1.5 lenses, which is, I think, the first time this has happened in a phone device like this to see a physical shutter.
So wait, you mean Physical aperture?
Yeah, sorry, physical aperture.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you
The Nokia 1520 Mutant thing didn't have it.
I don't know
think
the
it
answer to
did.
that.
The one with the nipple coming out the back. I thought it did.
I think it just did really high resolution.
It might have, but at that point, it's not really. Is that really a cell phone camera at that point?
No,
in the body type of thing.
Sensor's so small anyway.
Supports 960, is that right? FPS slow motion video at 720p, I believe.
That's pretty good.
Same physical form factor as before. They did intelligently move the fingerprint reader on the back to below the camera lenses as opposed to next to the camera lenses, so it's easier to reach and you're less likely to smudge up the back of your camera lens. It is available in this purple lilac color, which I am just growing more and more fond of. Higher resolution screens, AMOLED, obviously, again. What else stood out on this, Ken? Anything?
And emoji, which are creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that in commercials already.
Yeah, it's not, the animation's not as good as what Apple did with their animated emoji. What do they call theirs?
An emoji.
No, this is called AR emoji on the Samsung device.
okay.
AR
Doesn't
emoji.
it make
Because it takes a picture of you and it tries to make a 3D
Like an
character
avatar.
of an avatar of you.
whereas
It's like
with
a
Apple,
Bitmoji.
you have to go with their
Correct. Whatever
pre-rendered,
they've
They're
done.
just,
whatever.
they're just emojis that they animate as opposed to trying to make it like a virtual
Correct.
avatar.
Yeah.
Correct.
I do think that's cool that
It's
tries
an
to-
interesting
cool idea
idea. It
that-
just doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Like it animates pretty poorly. The examples I've seen of the animojis it creates doesn't really look like you. I don't know if you can tweak it after the fact or not. We'll be going on pre-sale March 2nd, so that's this Friday. Yeah, tomorrow's the 1st. So this Friday it goes on pre-sale. I think it ships the 17th or 19th, something like that. It's shipping this month, starting at $719 and $839 for the S9 Plus. Do keep in mind that apparently everybody but T-Mobile jacked up the prices on the phones. So even if you buy it, if you buy it through Verizon or AT&T, instead of being $719 for the base model of the S9, it's actually like $790 with all the payments.
Yeah.
Worked
So
into
buy
it.
it unlocked.
So if you buy it unlocked,
You can buy it from Samsung on a payment plan still, even
Yeah.
if you want to do that.
Yeah.
So
and like I said, T-Mobile I think is the only carrier that's actually doing it the right way. So
Well, you have to pay for the development of the custom firmware they're all using.
yeah, it does use it is on Oreo obviously. So moving on from that, Western Digital at Mobile World Congress, I guess more or less at Mobile World Congress, announced the SN720 and SN520 in NVMe M.2 SSDs. Tell me a little bit about them. First of all, why did they do this at MWC? Was there a particular reason for that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, they're sort of, these aren't meant to be retail products right away. These are meant to be like more embedded / like OEM mobile products. They actually, they're not currently listed on the Western Digital site. They're listed on the SanDisk site, even though they are Western Digital products. But SanDisk is more of an OEM sort of SSD brand for them. So they're kind of going that route, even though it's a little bit confusing still. Better than last time where they launched an SSD and that was the same exact name under both,
Right.
under both company names at the same time. But so it's their own controller. We don't have details on the controller yet. We just know that it's on, I think, a 28 nanometer process, and it's an 8-channel controller.
Okay.
So it should be competitive with other controllers. I would hope. We don't know.
Sure.
We haven't tested it. It's a controller that's like you typically have. You'll have like a Phison or a Silicon Motion or whatever controller, and those guys have to make their controllers work with all of the different types of flash out there.
Right.
Whereas Western Digital is dealing with their partnership with Toshiba, and they're making the BiCS3 flash, right? So this controller basically is just optimized for their flash.
Mm-hmm. So
maybe it can do better than the more generic controllers that are not optimized for any one particular kind of flash can do, right? So the two different versions, the 720 is a by 4.
Okay.
NVMe
Is that why it's
SSD.
keyed differently?
Yeah, that's just the standard keying that you would see for a by 4
Got
SSD.
it.
By 2 SSDs have the 2 key marks in them. That just makes them more compatible with systems that maybe had the other keying. It's not very frequent. Like it's really hard to find a system nowadays that has the other key on the socket.
Right.
Those SSDs, the 520 series, those are all by 2, obviously, due to the keying, you can tell. And they're available in the 3 different form factors, 3 different common form factors of M.2. That's the 2280, 2242, and 2230.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a picture of that series without the labels on them.
Okay.
And it basically looked like they just made the PCB longer. Like all the parts are just up near the connector.
Oh, really? Even okay.
Even the highest capacity. So I also looked at that. Like even the highest capacity of the 520, which is a half a terabyte, is still the same regardless of the size,
Right.
even if you have the much smaller PCB. So it's just they're just doing that just to be able to fit and physically mount into whatever the different
it's nice
devices.
to see more options in the shorter lengths, though, because you very rarely see.
Yeah, we kind of
That is true.
don't
Drives.
see them very
Yeah,
often.
and every once in a while you'll find something like an oddball, like a Nook or something else. Nooks tend to be 2280s,
Like
but
the
like
Zotac Z boxes, Sebastian reviews
Yes.
a lot. We'll occasionally have stuff like that.
yeah, you'll get these oddball kind of form factor things that have the smaller,
Interesting.
the smaller size and have a hard time trying to find a part for it. Usually, not to say that this is going to be easy to find retail necessarily, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it at a reseller or something if you want to get your hands on one.
Capacities up to 1 terabyte for both, or
No, it's 256 512 1 terabyte for the 720 for the by 4 model,
okay.
and then you cut all those in half. So
Okay,
just-
128, 256,
Yeah.
512 for the lower end SN 520.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the performance, like their stated specs, looks pretty good. They look competitive. Again, we haven't tested it, so proof will be in the pudding. We actually are. I'm pretty sure these can do caching, like SLC caching. They weren't clear. With those specs, I would imagine that they're doing some form of SLC cache.
Yeah, because it says the SN 720 is listed at 3.4 gigs per second read, 2.8 gigs per second write. With a 5-year warranty, while the SN 520s are rated at, they don't give me a speeds for those. Okay.
They're probably trying not to be.
Well,
they're
they're going to be
bus limited.
half,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So, it could be more than half
Yep.
because of the.
But the IOPS rating is
the
up to like
controller is,
500,000 IOPS, which is
Yeah.
kind of hard to hit with just straight TLC on an M.2 SSD.
Okay.
So it's probably SLC cache.
Do we know when they're going to be available? When we'll have them? That type of stuff.
Well, they're kind of. I think they're probably sampling to OEM. They're trying to do the OEM play first on this. Is what it looks like.
Okay.
I might go as far as to say like if there might be a retail version of this that's even a different part, possibly.
Oh, I see.
Right? Because it's Western Digital. Like it would be like a black or like something, right?
Yeah, the model naming is unique for them.
It
Yeah.
doesn't really follow their normal retail naming. So that kind of suggests to me that they might either that or they finally had to go, well, we called the last NVMe SSD the black. So we might have to, or actually the last M.2 SSD, sorry, because I think that was M.2 SATA. No,
All right.
it wasn't. I get them all mixed up now.
I think they had a PCIe part. The black was a PCIe. The blues
Yeah,
were SATA.
yeah. That's what it was.
Mm.
So what are you going to do now? Like, call it
The
the
all
black?
new Western Digital Black.
Call it the black 2? Oh, wait. They already
They
did that one.
That's right. Yes.
That was
the combined SATA.
that was the hybrid 2.5
hard
inch.
drives and SSD drive, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or showed up as 2 individual devices. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, only after you installed the driver did it show up as 2 devices.
Yeah.
It first showed up as one device with just the first section of LBAs was the SSD and the rest was the hard drive.
I'm really curious what Western Digital does with this. They haven't really made a whole lot of commotion after, since the SanDisk purchase, I would say.
Right.
Like they haven't made a lot of improvements or kind of pushed anything in that direction. So I would like to see them do that. Let's see. Up next, this was an interesting story. I originally wrote up on Market Watch so a report came out from a research company called Bernstein that had been looking into this company called Bitmain, which I had not heard much of. I know Ken and Allyn are more familiar with the crypto mining stuff, so they knew what it was. They make the Ant miners, which are the freestanding ASIC-based
miners,
Bitcoin miners.
Bitcoin, Litecoin.
Oh, it does Litecoin. Okay,
Yeah, they have a couple for different algorithms.
So
no Ant coin yet?
No,
not yet.
There's Ant Farm.
So Bernstein did this research into this, and they discovered that they estimated the 2017 profits for this sort of secretive Chinese company was between $3 and $4 billion, exceeding the profits of NVIDIA that has had a banner 2017, right? Like think of where their stock is and how they've beat expectations around every corner. So it was an interesting kind of thing
$3 to
$4
billion to sell
of profit, not of revenue, of like actual profit.
Sell some extruded aluminum boxes.
Just the worstly built things you've ever touched in your lives.
It's the most just slapped
as well.
together possible. I mean, if you shake it, the PCBs rattle around.
Ooh,
like loud as hell.
The fans are super loud. Like there's just
this is how you increase profit margin, everybody.
Yeah. The wiring you can see. I mean, just look at the picture. Like scroll down some. Like there's. The wiring is not even all internal. It's just there's just little ribbons, just connecting stuff.
The network box kind of slapped up on top.
Yeah, it's like a Raspberry Pi derivative, like one of those single board computers, essentially, with an interface.
So this is what Bitmain makes, right? Yeah. And apparently they make a significant amount of them.
They do.
Now, what's interesting about this is I didn't want to dive into what these do and how much they're worth, but this company has about 70 to 80% of the dedicated Bitcoin mining market. What's interesting is the ASICs that exist in this product inside here are anywhere from like 220 to 250 small chips, right? All doing the same type of thing, distributed computing.
Yeah, if you look in that picture, there are like 4 PCBs you can see sticking out the top. Each of those are a hashing board, which have
like a few dozen,
like 60 to 80 ASICs on them with little small individual heat
These
sinks.
fans just blow air through.
Yep.
Got it. So now what's interesting about this is not like I didn't want to get into a discussion about are GPUs better or worse at mining than these? They basically address totally different markets at this point. Because once an ASIC is introduced for an algorithm, it basically takes the GPUs out of it completely.
Right. I mean, you're making a chip that only does this one algorithm. It's just way better at it.
What I found out was interesting is that as Ken had been tracking for me for a little while, it was kind of like news about like, hey, TSMC or Samsung had made some comments in their earnings about, hey, we've been making a lot of chips for crypto miners.
Yeah.
Okay. And nobody's naming specific customers necessarily, but if you look at kind of the market for these foundries, what they want to do is they want to sell every wafer for the highest margin they can, right? And so as their available inventory of space in the fab line decreases, then they have the ability to now go to their customers and charge more for the next round. It's like, okay, if you want to have priority, you're going to have to pay more for this type of thing. And so now that you look at, before you could kind of think of, I would have just assumed that, well, coin miners are willing to take whatever's left over at whatever fab, right, on any foundry process, because whatever, it's a side thing, they don't really care, blah, blah, blah. But once you start to see that these guys are making $3 to $4 billion a year, you realize that as many chips as they make, because again, there's 220 of those, they're smaller than normal GPUs, but 220 per box, that they have potentially a lot of pull at these foundries. If they go to Samsung or TSMC and say, we want to build 7 nanometer parts because we can make them smaller, more power efficient, we can maybe put 400 of them in the next box, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Now, they not only will they have the request for it, but because the market that they're building products for is purely a profit play. Like, well, if we need to sell these boxes we make for 4,000 instead of 2,500, we're pretty sure people will pay this.
Yeah, they still will.
These people will still pay that. Whereas if you're
the
NVIDIA,
third-party market for these things is insane. It's like 2 or 3x retail value a lot of times. Yeah.
So probably if your Bitmain gives you an idea of what you could maybe charge retail for these parts, I'm going forward.
I'm surprised Bitmain hasn't just risen their prices.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the problem is because, so I kind of basically just decided that because of this, Bitmain is not cost sensitive when it comes to the production, Right, they are
At
to
least
some
not
degree.
as cost
Right,
sensitive.
they are to some degree, but because they know that they can raise prices as long as the market is doing good, the crypto market is doing good. If you're NVIDIA or AMD, now you're making GPUs, and sure, if you're NVIDIA, you can sell some of them for $3,000 or $4,000 to the machine learning guys, the server guys. But when you start looking at the mass of their GPUs, which is in the gaming space and the mobile space, you don't have the cost flexibility suddenly to raise the price of your product to what Bitmain may be doing. So as a result, there may be some battles for foundry inventory if it is constrained, especially as new process nodes come up I the likes of NVIDIA, AMD, even Qualcomm, Apple, right, at all these places, and somebody like Bitmain who's just like, I just need these chips because I know I'm gonna sell them for 1,000% markup. I don't care, right? Whereas NVIDIA and the other guys and AMD and Qualcomm have to go, we have to judge what we can even pay for these to even hope to make a profit, because Qualcomm doesn't get to sell the Snapdragon 845 for $4,000. They would love to be able to do that, but they don't get to do that.
Interestingly enough, in the current market where they're making nanometers on, was it 16 nanometer, I guess, TSMC?
Yes.
AMD actually has an advantage here because, as Lisa Su said in one of their recent earnings, like they have the ability to make more GPUs because they're using Global Foundries.
Right. Global Foundries
isn't currently utilizing, from what we can tell. They don't have a 14 nanometer.
They told me they have some, but it's not a significant portion of their customer base. I'm curious, Josh, if you had any thoughts on that, synopsis or kind of theory that I had in place, about this fighting that may occur for these more advanced process nodes. This is where you speak, Josh. It's an audio podcast.
He's thinking.
You really expected me to listen to all that?
Coming from Josh.
I listened to your whole thing about a wheel for 15 minutes.
That's true. You did.
Because I knew when you were finished, so I could transition.
The Foundry. Do you want me to actually answer anything?
Yeah.
The entire Foundry thing is kind of up in the air. I mean, we've got a lot of 14 nanometer production that I just don't think it's getting completely saturated. NVIDIA and AMD certainly they're pushing chips, but they're not breaking the bank pushing the chips. I mean, I think that they are still so leery about what happened a couple of years ago with the coin drops and how much inventory was left in the channel. They've just been a whole lot more cautious, and so I think foundries are kind of, as a rule, unless it's a true cutting edge process node, you're always going to have some slack in there to be able to throw in some significant wafer orders. Maybe not, I need 50,000 wafer orders this month. That's not going to happen. But hey, I'm going to schedule for next month and a half 10,000 wafer orders in a batch, and they can do that.
What was the stat?
I may be talking straight out of my bungus, but
maybe.
I think 20,000.
Yeah, we had
16 nanometer wafers a month.
Yeah, we had seen a report that Bitmain was taking up 20,000 of the 16 nanometer. They had placed new orders for 20,000 wafer starts
starting
a month
this quarter.
Starting this quarter,
which is more than NVIDIA does.
Right.
At that.
So
Jesus.
It's interesting, and I will freely admit that maybe there's plenty of capacity at these fabs, but my discussions with them is that it's not really the case, right? And what was one of the metrics I used? The biggest, Apple's still the largest consumer of TSMC's fab facilities, and my guess is you don't piss off your biggest customer by cutting out their portion of things. So you start to look at who are the smaller guys that I can maybe pull back if I get a wafer order for 200% markup than what I would normally get for it. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to see. Like I said, it's all theory. It's all stuff that could happen. But I think the sudden introduction in the span of just a couple of years, a major player in the fabless semiconductor space that is going to have a $3 to $4 billion profit, fabs don't come online that quick. So it's not like this is an easily absorbed thing if it happens to turn out that way. So
I don't know. Global Foundries probably would like to get more of their fab space out, do as many people as possible.
Well, Samsung announced in some earnings call that they're making crypto ASICs for somebody. We don't know who yet. So in theory, some of that business could transfer to Global Foundries if they're running into capacity issues.
Yeah, if they're doing 14 because of the shared development cycle on that might work too. All right.
Logic needs to get into it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I believe that company's dead. It's a fabless semiconductor company. Jeremy, tell me about the cult of Vega and Far Cry 5.
Well, I mean, sadly, we are living in a world right now where it's cheaper to buy a graphics card that comes with a free computer than it is to buy the graphics card by itself. AMD has sort of twigged onto this, and so their latest giveaway is not tied into a GPU. It's tied into buying a computer that's running either a RX 580 or either the Vega 64 or 56. Pick one up, you get the standard edition of Far Cry 5 for free.
When's that come out?
Which is
soon.
Is it? Okay.
Next month, probably?
Really?
I imagine it's before
it's end of March.
Before the end of the quarter.
And this will be a Radeon title, so they have been working with Ubisoft to tweak some of the things. It will support FreeSync 2.
Ooh.
You don't have a monitor to use on that, but I mean, hey, at least you can support it.
If I were AMD, I would be seeding out some FreeSync 2 displays along with early testing of Far Cry 5. That's what I would be doing.
Smart idea.
It would be an intelligent thing. Yeah, so FreeSync 2 support, Rapid Packed Math, that's FP16 support, and shader intrinsics. Interesting. It's actually
and
really
you know the best part?
What's that?
Ubisoft games always have really good benchmarks built in.
Do they?
Yeah.
True.
What's another example of that?
Assassin's Creed.
There was one in Far Cry 4?
Wildlands.
There was
Far Cry
one
Primal.
in Far Cry Primal, yeah.
In the past 2 years, they've put essentially identical benchmark
When you got a
modes in
GPU
every
company
game.
footing the bill for some of it, I guess that kind of makes sense too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to play this game. I didn't realize it was that soon too. So good. All right. Maybe I won't. Hopefully, I won't have to buy I guess I can just buy the game. I have video cards already. I don't have to worry about buying a video card.
I think you're good.
But
they said custom built. Like, does Best Buy sell machines that have 580s in them?
Yeah.
Does that count as custom built?
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, literally anything that's got one of those cards in it, away you go.
Sweet.
Just like before you'd buy a GPU
That's
and away you go.
true. It does. I didn't realize that, but think about it before, Jeremy. But like trying to make a bundle package like this for something like Final Fantasy or Far Cry 5 could be a disaster if nobody could buy the card.
The graphics card.
Yeah.
That's why you attach it to the system.
Yeah. All right, last thing real quick. Qualcomm also announced Snapdragon 700 mobile platform. There's not much more to say other than that. They didn't announce any details about it. It's obviously supposed to be splitting the difference somewhat between the 600 and 800 series. I believe this will probably end up being, so there was already a division inside the 600 series chipsets where half or the lower section used off-the-shelf ARM Cortex parts, and the upper side of the 600 series used the kind of semi-custom cryo CPU cores. My guess would be that that's what they're going to do here, is they're just going to make the 700 series be the ones that have the semi-custom chips in it, but they go into it and they say these are going to be, new processor designs for the ISP and for the GPU, the Adreno GPU and all that. So I imagine what we're going to see is some of the Snapdragon 845 hardware shrunk down or cut down at least a little bit to make sure there is some kind of performance deviation. But they've kind of stated that this is going to be something to address a lot of the Chinese markets as well that need lower cost devices than we're willing to absorb over here. Absorb, I guess that's a good term for that, over here in North America. So we'll see about that. No idea what the LTE speed might be on there. So I think that's the roundup of our Mobile World Congress updates. I feel like there's something else that I was going to talk about this week that I'm forgetting, but GPU market share. Yeah, there you go. I think I have a story going on up this tomorrow, but maybe we'll just save it for next week because I don't remember the numbers. AMD gained 8% market share in
Was
Q4.
it 8 or 6?
8.
8.
Okay.
Something like that, 6 or 8%. It's significant for a 1 quarter increase. But I think a lot of that is, it was 6% of the sales were attributed to crypto mining.
That's what it was.
And AMD's increase
Which
was
is the
about
weirdest
8%.
stat of all out of that JPR thing. It feels like that should be bigger, but at the same time, it does
Tracking
absorb
that-
the overstock.
We
and
were
just-
saying the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
how would they even get that metric? And, because plenty of people that are mining just bought their GPUs at like Micro Center or whatever. So how do you tell?
Yeah. I mean, Mike, I do not know the answer how you get that. I imagine a lot of it is you talk to your buddies and friends at these, the board partners, and you try to get a sense for how many did you ship to Newegg versus how many did you ship to crypto miners directly, right? And then once you get into that Newegg audience, it's more difficult.
Yeah, right.
And I'm pretty sure that the JPR has panels. So they'll have tech enthusiasts that are a member of a panel, and they'll ask and find out that, of the 6,000 people that we surveyed, about 6% flat out said, I bought it primarily for crypto mining.
It was an interesting discussion I had with somebody today about it, because I think part of it is you're probably looking at some stuff like Steam surveys and seeing how many new GPUs are coming online, right? Because a guy who buys 20 for mining isn't installing Steam on all those machines. But it also makes it impossible then to track the person who is both gaming and mining, right? Because now you just attribute them to a gamer, which I think actually makes sense. It was also complicated by the fact that there was a huge influx of GPUs, especially in China, that installed Steam for the first time ever recently because of PUBG. That were not counted before, even though those were GPUs that had been sold previous.
The
Right?
hardware stats were flooded in the past 6 months with new Chinese users who had never had Steam accounts.
Yeah. So I don't know how you balance all that. I'm glad I don't have to do that, because you're basically doing educated guessing, as highly educated as you can get it. But regardless, in terms of just raw sales, AMD went up 6 or 8 points, which means NVIDIA had to go down 6 or 8 points, which is not great for anybody. Well, it's great for AMD. It's not great for NVIDIA, I should say. However, with all the rumored upcoming releases, right, that NVIDIA will have another GPU coming out end of March timeframe, while they do GDC or GTC or something. Will that switch back? It all depends on if there's inventory allotment for that. But
none of this is getting easier.
No, I don't think buying a card as a gamer is going to get easier with that release, but it may mean that, like, hey, miners will stop buying the AMD cards and start buying the NVIDIA cards if NVIDIA had been building up stock, and they'd make it easier to find at first, or whatever it happens to be. So it's still going to be a really complicated issue, but I think we'll talk about that more next week as well. So let's get into our hardware, software picks of the week. Mine has been sitting on this desk the whole time in secret.
In plain sight.
It's a case.
Too damn loud to be a secret.
Let me see if I can get it. You hear it? Silent.
It's so quiet.
This is one out of a 3-pack of the Corsair ML120 Pro RGB LEDs. So the fan blades are white, not because they decided not to use a colored plastic, but instead the LEDs, it basically diffuses the light. So you get what looks like.
Where
here.
are the LEDs?
They're around the ring.
Are they inside?
They're in the ring around.
They're in.
I think they're on the other side of the fan.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
I think they're inside. I think they're inside this.
That's the innovation. Is they're like
inside the blade itself, right?
I don't think they're inside the blade.
They're inside the motor housing.
No, they're
outward?
hub mounted. Or hub mounted RGB LEDs.
Like
I see him. Okay. Yeah, I got it. So they're just diffuse. These are maglev. You can show the site up here now. They're also
It's where friction meets reality.
There we go. They're also expensive. Like pretty really expensive.
What?
3 of them. That's for three
That's
of
for
them
three.
for $120. And
$1 per millimeter.
Yeah.
But divided by 3.
33 cents per millimeter.
It also comes with a fan
All right,
controller.
fine.
And I'll play this video so we can get a little bit of an idea of what they look like.
They're actually really cool in person because they blend together the color more than any other RGB fan
It
I've ever
doesn't
seen.
look like a fixed.
They're very
LED.
well diffused.
Yeah.
Well, not in that one.
Which is the benefit of that milk jug coloring to the fan blade itself. So you can see a video with our buddy Harry there talking about the fans and the maglev and the color shifting. Obviously, you can control this in software. Like I said, they are really expensive, but in terms of noise levels and reliability, the maglev should help on that. Let's see, 400 to 1600 RPM PWM control, 25 dBA max.
Pretty quiet.
At peak performance. You are going to pay. You're going to pay for them. And they're
individually, they're $35
$35 a piece, where you get a 3-pack with a controller for $120. Now, obviously, that's a steep build, but hey, you can't afford to buy video cards anyway. So what are you gonna do with that money?
Just spend the money on that.
Buy an
Case
APU and
Yeah.
some RGB case fans.
Yeah, get an APU, get a mini ITX, but buy a full ATX case so you can fill it with case fans on the side panels and all kinds of stuff. They do sell them in 140 millimeter as well.
To those with $140 for the set.
I didn't look into it. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I only got sent the 120 mils. So,
Gotta go by Jeremy's scale. It's $1 per millimeter, you know.
well, that seems reasonable. Like I said, you can't buy a
what
GPU.
world?
You can't buy a GPU. Look, we sell $200 keyboards. We sell $500 power supplies.
Just make all the things
I think
more
$35
expensive.
case fans is just the price of doing business.
I thought these computer stuff was supposed to get cheaper.
No,
Whatever told you that?
as it becomes niche, it becomes more expensive.
I guess.
Right?
Well, how cheap can you get an RPi now?
I said a computer though.
Technically, still a computer.
Yeah, well, my watch
these
is also a
GPUs are
computer.
becoming so
Real
niche.
computer.
Yeah, they are. All right, who is next? Why won't this switch? Uh-oh.
Oh, now it's computer
Come
volume.
on.
Allyn, let's see. We got Allyn up here
Get a real
next.
computer.
So if you're, you might find Amazon Basics cables for cheap, or like, you know,
Sometimes.
what's the other monoprice cables for cheap and stuff. But those guys only go for like the main common
Yeah, there's
sizes.
normal cables.
The normal ones. They make them cheap,
The normal cables.
but
is what you
they're
should
normal kind of cables, right? You might need, you know, some oddball kind of cables.
Okay.
But you also want them for cheap.
Just tell me what you're getting at here.
Just
I'm
whatever.
concerned.
Basically. So if you're looking for pretty much any kind of cable.
I'm not seeing anything too weird here.
That looks safe, whatever that is right there.
Yeah, that thing. so that puts two outlets.
Two plugs, one outlet.
That puts two girls, one cup. That puts two
that's
two
the
outlets.
joke.
Oh,
You have to go back to that thing, Ryan.
I don't know if I can.
It is.
Yeah, it's got the thing.
It's two males and a female, to be honest.
It puts two outlets at the end of a standard like PC power supply cable. Like that would plug into
Why
that.
the hell would you do?
I don't know, but they have it. Okay.
All right.
But they have all sorts of, you know, and they'll
They
like
have standing desks. All right, no.
sure, I
no,
guess.
these are just desks. Sorry.
But they'll tend to have any possible type of cable, and then you drill down and they can make them in custom sizes for you. And the prices are like mono price ish kind of prices. So, you know, it's handy. It's a
Ooh,
handy
Slim
place
Cat
to
6.
it's a handy place to look if you're looking for
All
any
right,
kind of
Alan, I
random
want to
cable.
shame you. What cables did you buy?
I didn't actually, but I was like
Look
Ryan
at
today,
these.
wandering
Nice.
around the office looking for a pick of the week.
Plug adapters.
Yeah, I mean they do actually have like a lot of different,
Interesting.
you know, kind of adapters there that I hadn't
Cat
seen anywhere
5,
else.
6
You
couplers.
should definitely buy a bunch of Cat 6 couplers. That's exactly how you should wire your office.
I can't find any S-video to HDMI. This sucks.
You got the old classic USB 2.0 A male to B male.
Do they have A to A cables? A male to male
Probably.
cables?
Oh,
I would imagine they have 8A cables.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
They should.
Well, that's not how you do that. No.
USB.
There's a giant dump
Do they have
in
the
the
power
Arizona
over
desert
Ethernet
that
enabled?
is just filled with.
Oh, U2. What is with every freaking podcast? U2.
Oh, they have it.
Timing.
It was the third one.
There you go.
Is that
AA.
it?
That cable shouldn't exist.
See, and it's only like it's less than $4.
Ideal for connecting your
Why did it
PC
have
to
to
any
be
peripheral
128
device.
There was something we needed that for at one point. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Some people are bad at making electronics and they make them do this.
Yeah.
Why would you
Yes.
do that?
I don't know. I think it's if you. Couldn't you? Didn't they do this for like data transfer between two
Well, you had
Ps
to
if you
have
were
logic
upgrading
in the
PCs?
middle, though.
Yeah, it had a logic box. in it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it was
but
an
it
A to
needed-
A. But I
but
mean, in theory,
no.
you could just do A to A.
So
with
they
a
have
piece of
a
software.
crossover
No.
USB 3.0 cable?
No?
You need you can't go host to host like that.
You need like a
Tell me what I can
controller in
do
the
or
middle
not.
that switches.
Say again.
You need like a
It
controller.
needs a
in the middle.
crossover.
Yeah.
The hell?
All right. Okay. What's this called again? You never said the name of it.
SF cable.
SF cable.
San Francisco cable.
Got it. All right. Switch
.com.
off this so I can find the next one here. Jeremy, you are up next.
So, got a little story here. they were too cheap to put a card lock on my new server room. So they put some Medeco M3 locks on there.
Yeah, man.
And I was in and out of it all weekend and everything until Monday when the user showed up, and all of a sudden the key stopped working.
Okay.
As in all the keys we had, the master key of the building, everything. You could not turn it.
Just go home.
Well, I mean, that was one thing. I decided to sort of look up, how do you get into one? And suddenly realized that Medeco High Security locks are not high security in any way, shape, or form. Because if you just cut a credit card with enough stiffness into the same shape and angles as the key, you can get in.
Why a
wait a
credit
minute.
card?
But wait a minute. So you had the key.
But this is the problem. It didn't actually work because, of course, the key doesn't work, so the fake key won't. So I learned about this thing that I'm putting into the chat because Ryan may or may not want this on his website.
Oh, dear.
Well, it's from Amazon. I mean, you're allowed to buy it. But I learned about how you open these incredibly high security key card lock doors
it's just a
with
bump
what is
tool?
essentially a bloody long ass hanger with a piece of wire
It's
on
a
it.
hanger and a piece of string. I mean,
And I watched with like
what the heck?
speechless as this high security thing, which I'd already broken and proven to be pickable with a bloody curved credit card, was opened with a hanger and a piece of wire.
So you observed this by the very expensive locksmith that came out, I assume?
Yeah, well, the building had to deal with that locksmith because the building made us replace that key in the middle of our build out.
Wow.
Because it wasn't matching the building's high standards of security.
So was the original issue that they just ordered the wrong keys or something?
Oh no, I was in and out all weekend. So I went and chatted with the guy, and he's like, well, there's some interesting little cylinders in there. So instead of just being a straight up and down cylinder, some of them are on an angle.
Okay.
And in order to be held on an angle, there is a little sort of a wedge-shaped piece in there, which can rotate. And so one of them had rotated out of true, and one of the cylinders would no longer move up or down.
And it just messed up the whole, like, nobody could...
The whole bloody lock.
Okay.
Which I can now defeat anytime I bloody well feel like it, if I can find a coat hanger and a piece of wire.
It looked to me like a really long paper clip, personally.
No, it is about 2.5, 3 foot long. Like, it's got to reach from you go underneath the door and up to the door handle. Right? So it's got to be long enough that it reaches where the door handle is.
That's what that's doing? It's just...
That's literally
just opening
all
the
it does. So when you're rekeying anything important,
that's great.
I might not recommend the Medecos. Find something different.
Wow.
Duct tape.
Yeah. More
All right.
effective.
Josh, you're last.
Me.
What do you
know
got?
what? If the price of that TSPC is too much, and I've done this, I think, 2 years ago, the TX went back down in price to about $308. It's a little bit less depending on where you go. This was my first wheel that really got me into racing. It's a pretty good quality feeling unit.
Comes with
And
the pedals.
again, you get the whole thing for
Comes with the wheel.
$308 rather than $499.
It's the whole thing at once.
Hopefully,
Like,
it doesn't catch on
yes.
fire like real 458s
Yeah.
did.
No, nobody wants that.
Whatever.
This car's on fire.
It's a Ferrari 458 Italia edition because as opposed to the German or the Portuguese edition, I guess.
Sure.
Indeed. All right, everybody. That is going to wrap up the episode. Again, reminder, PCPer.com/podcast is where you can find all the back episodes and links to the stories we talked about, RSS feeds, all that stuff. And of course, before we get our short URL, you can get in early in the bottom, in the first round at teespring.com/stores/PCPer. You can buy some t-shirts and or a mug there if you want. So that's an option as well.
Oh, we need a mug with Josh's mug.
Oh gosh.
So Josh's mug.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
We should do that.
Okay.
So
Josh, we're going to need a photo.
We're probably going to need a picture from Josh Tech for that to happen.
Oh, well, I don't know if they'll let us print that on mugs.
Whatever. Nothing wrong with that.
Want to make an
Perfectly reasonable.
NSFW mug? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, I believe. No issues. I'm thinking through. Yeah, I think we'll all be
Hopefully.
good. We'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks.